In this Living Righteously series, we're going to be talking about enduring the narrow walk. And I think this is a great topic for all of us because we're all experiencing this and we're all going through this. And I can say this with certainty because I know that it can be a very lonely walk. And even scripture tells us that it will be a very narrow walk indeed. Now, for those of you who are on this spiritual journey and looking for spiritual truth, well, this video is for you because this is a truth network. And while I try to give you all political truth, I also try to give you all spiritual truth, which is the truth in restoring the set apart Hebrew names for our Father Yahuwah and his true Son, the Messiah Yahusha, as well as following the laws, statutes, and commandments, because you're going to see that is the narrow path. And you're also going to see how that is the path that we must be enduring and walking on. But we must also not only be hearers of the word, but we must also be doers of the word. And we're going to go to scripture itself just to see what the word is. But for those of you who are experiencing this, we must continue to endure to the end and know that Yahuwah is on our side, and just be still and know that he is Yahuwah and that he will continue to lead us and guide us on this path. Yes, I know it can be difficult following the Torah to the best of your ability. I know it can be tough trying to be righteous in the sight and the eyes of our Father, but we just have to know that he will continue to strengthen us. He will continue to increase us more and more so that we do not have to worry, but we just have to continue to seek his word and follow his word and seek his face all the time. And we know with that, we will not go wrong. So I'm going to be taking you to a few scriptures that can help you on your spiritual walk and journey as you continue to endure and walk on the narrow walk. And if you're new to this walk and if you're new to this channel, I'm going to give you some scriptures because I know your pastor has probably told you that, oh, the law's done away with and oh, we don't have to worry about the law anymore. But what does scripture itself say? We're going to go over that and tackle it more to come. Now we're here in Matthew or Matthew chapter 24. And also I talked about this in my scriptures often ignored. So please stay tuned for that, which will be uploaded soon enough, where I go over the chapter to its entirety. But today we're going to be reading from verse 13 specifically. And it says, "But he that shall endure unto the end, the same shall be saved." And of course, this is talking about the end times. And what Yahusha says is what's to come in the end times. But we just have to remember, who we're serving, and we have to remember that we're doing this for the kingdom. We're serving our Father Yahuwah, the creator of heaven and earth, the one who created you, the one who created the heavens, the one who created the stars, the one who created the sands, the one who created the trees, the one who created the plants, the one who created the animals. We are serving him. We are serving a living Elohim. That is who we are serving. And we know with him and guarding his commandments and guarding his Torah, we know there is great reward. And we know that when we serve him, he is salvation, and he will give us salvation if we continue to walk in his ways and do his ways and follow his law, statutes, and commandments. So don't ever think that it's not worth it, or that, oh, I know a lot of us are going through a whole lot, but just remember to keep the kingdom in your head and remember to serve him, because remember, with him there is great reward. That's why we're here in Matthew chapter 7, or Matthew chapter 7, and we're going to be reading from verses 13 to 14. And as you're going to see, it says, "Enter ye in at the straight gate, for wide is the gate, and broad is the way that leadeth to destruction, and many there be which go in thereat. Because straight is the gate, and narrow is the way which leadeth unto life, and few there be that find it." And it even talks about in scripture how it even says that there is a way that seems good and it seems pleasing to the eyes, but it is in fact the way that leads to destruction. It is the way that does not lead to truth. And we're going to find out what that narrow path is if you're wondering what that narrow path is. And we're going to use scripture itself to find out just what that path is, because you're going to see what the path is in scripture itself so that you can get on the right path, and so that you can be led by the Father, and so that you can start to do his word and follow his word more effectively, and so that you can be led on your spiritual walk and journey into truth. Because there's no surprise that you're watching this video right now. There's no surprise that you're tuning into this video right now. And like I said, we are looking for truth and seeking the truth of our Father, the truth that nothing but the truth. And that is why we're here in Yashayahu, or Isaiah chapter 35, and we're going to be reading from verse 8, because like I said, we're trying to figure out what that narrow path is and how to endure on that narrow path for those of us who already know. But it says, and a highway shall be there, and a way, and it shall be called the way of set apartness. The unclean shall not pass over it, but it shall be for those. The wayfaring men, though fools, shall not err therein. So like I said, the Father's already laid out a path that seems righteous and seems good to the eyes and seems pleasing to your itching ears, like your pastors and your churches and your Sunday sun worship and Christianity and religion itself. But is that the narrow path? Is that the way that our Father wants us to go down? Is that the way of righteousness? And is that pleasing in the eyes of our Father? And you can learn more by watching my Be Deceived No More playlist on YouTube. But I'm here at Luke chapter 13, and there's a reason for it. We're going to be reading from verses 23 through 24, because like I said, we want to figure out exactly, based on scripture itself, what that narrow path is. And it says, then one said unto him, Adonai, or Master, or Sovereign, are there few that be saved? And he, Yahusha, said unto them, so the Messiah responds and says, strive to enter in at the straight gate. Okay, for many, I say unto you, will seek to enter in and shall not be able to. So what is the Yahusha, what is our Messiah talking about when he says that what many will try to seek to enter in but will not be able to? Why will they not be able to enter in? Because rather than taking the narrow path, rather than taking the straight path of righteousness, and rather than getting on the path of set apartness that scripture talks about, they were in the path of many. They were in the path of the world. They were following the world, and they did not follow the path of righteousness. And we're going to see exactly just what that path of righteousness really is. Because your pastor and your preacher, they love telling you that the law is done away with. They love telling you that you no longer have to follow the Mosaic law. And they love telling you that the law was nailed to the cross, even though the real Messiah, Yahusha himself, was not even nailed to the cross. He was hung on a tree. And there's even scriptures to prove that. And I've done many videos on this topic so that you can learn more and be deceived no more. But I'm here in Psalms, or Tehillim chapter 119, because now that we've gone over the narrow path and enduring the narrow path, well, for those of you who are new to this, well, what is that narrow path? Let's find out, and let's see what scripture says itself. So I'm going to be going to verses 105, and I'm going to be also going to verses 142 so that you can see the truth for what it is. And as you can see, we're here in verse 105, and it says, thy word is a lamp unto my feet and a light unto my path. Oh, let's say that again. Thy word is a lamp unto my feet and a light unto my path. So what is a light unto his path? The path of righteousness. The word of Yahuwah is the light unto the path. So the word of Yahuwah is a light unto our path. The word of Yahuwah is a lamp unto our feet and a light unto our path. Well, what is the word of Yahuwah? The commandments, and what? Keeping the commandments, the law, statutes, and commandments that are written and highlighted in the first 5 books of scripture, and what you commonly call Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, and Deuteronomy. That is exactly what that is talking about. And all throughout this chapter, I highly recommend you read this chapter to its entirety, because as you see, it talks all about keeping the righteous judgments. It talks about according to thy word. It talks about teach me thy judgments, yet do I not forget thy law. I have not erred from thy precepts. That's all that it talks about. What precepts do you think he's talking about? As I'm back here in Tehillim, or Psalms chapter 119, and we're here in verses 142, and as you can see, it says, thy righteousness is an everlasting righteousness, and thy law is the truth. So what is the truth according to scripture itself? Thy law is the truth. The law of Yahuwah is the truth. And what is the law of Yahuwah? Following the law, statutes, and commandments of Yahuwah, and not only following them, but keeping them and doing things like observing the Shabbat and following the feast days. And I've done plenty of videos on this topic below if you would like to see them. But it even says that what? Trouble and anguish have taken hold of me, and although trouble and anguish have taken hold of me, yet thy commandments are my delights. The righteousness of thy testimonies is everlasting. Give me understanding and I shall live. So we see, and we already know the scripture even says that man shall not live by bread alone, but by the word of Yahuwah. Well, what's the word of Yahuwah? His righteous laws and his righteous statutes and his righteous commandments. And when we're following those laws, statutes, and commandments, that is how we know that we are keeping the narrow path. We are walking on the narrow path, because scripture has even said there are very few that find it. And we also have to realize and understand and keep this in our mind, because we know we're all working out our salvation with fear and trembling, that it is a barakah, or a blessing, to even walk in the Torah of our Father Yahuwah. It is a blessing to be following his laws, statutes, and commandments. It is a blessing to know his name. It is a blessing to be praying to his name and to be worshiping him in the name of Yahuwah, and to be praying to him and casting out demons in the name of Yahushua, our Messiah. It is a real true blessing, because there are very few that find it, the righteous narrow path, the path leading to salvation. But, well, like I said, what does your pastor say? Because your pastor says that the law is done away with and you no longer have to keep the law at all. So you can eat whatever you want, you can say whatever you want, you can treat people any kind of way you want, you can do anything. Wow, kind of sounds like the man of lawlessness to me, just like in 2 Thessalonians chapter 2. Oh, very interesting and suspicious indeed. But we're here in Matthew, or Matidyahu chapter 5, because we're going to get some truth in today. We're going to see what the Messiah himself says about the law, and whether or not the law is done away with, and whether or not the law is nailed to the cross, so to speak. We're going to see what Yahushua HaMashiach himself says about that. So we're going to be going to verses 17 through 20 right now. And we also know that the Messiah himself was even keeping the law, statutes, and commandments. We know that he was, because we know he kept the Shabbat. We know he observed the Shabbat. We know he rested on the seventh day, just like the commandments say. We know he was teaching about the law. We also know that he was also observing the feast days, and he even kept the Passover meal with the disciples, or Talmidim, and he was teaching the disciples to do the same thing, and the disciples were teaching about the law, statutes, and commandments as well. So we know for a fact that the Messiah was teaching about the law, because newsflash, there was no New Testament, there was no so-called New Testament during the time of the Messiah. So where was he teaching, and where was he getting his teachings from? He was getting it from the Torah and the prophets, the same prophets of the Old Testament, or the Old Covenant, who were talking and teaching and preaching the law, statutes, and commandments, and trying to get the children of Yahshua, all, or Israel, to return to the law, statutes, and commandments of our Father in heaven, Yahuwah. But let's see what he says in Matidyahu chapter 5, verses 17 through 20. It says, "Think not that I am come to destroy the law or the prophets. I am not come to destroy, but to fulfill." So in that verse alone, the Messiah even tells us that he did not come to destroy the law, but rather to fulfill. So that means the law is still in effect. And that means, yes, the law, we still have to follow it, and no, the law is not done away with according to scripture itself. "For verily I say unto you, till heaven and earth pass, one jot or one tittle shall in no wise pass from the law, till all be fulfilled." Well, have heaven and earth passed away? No, they haven't. We're still here. So therefore the law is still in effect today. "Whosoever therefore shall break one of the least commandments, and shall teach men so, he shall be called the least in the kingdom of heaven, or Shamayim. But whosoever shall do and teach them, the same shall be called great in the kingdom of Shamayim, or heaven. For I say unto you, that except your righteousness shall exceed the righteousness of the scribes and Pharisees, ye shall in no case enter into the kingdom of Shamayim, or heaven." And when it talks about scribes and Pharisees, it's talking about what, and I've done a video on this, about those who preach and keep their own traditions, or keep the laws of their own traditions, rather than keeping the law, statutes, and commandments. For example, following these pagan holidays rather than keeping the feast days of our Father, going to church on Sunday rather than keeping and observing the seventh day, Shabbat, day of rest, and saying, oh, well, we can eat anything we want to, even though Isaiah 66 makes it real clear what's going to happen if you're caught eating pork on the day of judgment. Do not be deceived. But wait, there's more. There is always more. So we're here in Yahukanan, or John chapter 14, and we're going to be reading from verses 15 because, like I said, we're trying to figure out, is the law really done away with? And the Messiah, Yahusha himself, what does he say? He says, if you love me, keep my commandments. That is what he says. And he tells us to keep the commandments, and he even teaches that we are supposed to keep the commandments, endure to the end, that we may be counted worthy to escape the judgment that is even at the door. But the question is, are you keeping the commandments? Are you learning the commandments for yourself? Are you going to the first 5 books of the Bible? Are you learning the commandments for yourself? While we may not be able to follow all 613, and yes, there are over 600 commandments, it's not just those 10, there's more than that. Although we cannot keep them all, are we learning them and getting them into our hearts? Are we allowing the set apart Ruach, or the Ruach HaKodesh? Are we allowing the Father to write them on our hearts? Do we have an open heart for him to do that? Because it's no surprise that you're watching this video right now. Why? Because the Father Yahuwah is leading you to his truth, which is his righteous laws, statutes, and commandments, and away from the deceptions that are religion, because he wants you to walk on that narrow path so that you can be counted worthy to escape the evil that is even at the door. And my hope today is that you are receiving truth for your spiritual walk and journey so that you can learn the law, statutes, and commandments yourself, but so that you can also start to observe the feast days, so that you can also start to observe the Shabbat, 7th day of rest, as well as learn the dietary laws and the different commandments in Scripture itself in the first 5 books of the Bible. But if you're looking to get away from those watered down translations, I highly recommend the Sefer. Now, the Sefer is a comprehensive restoration of sacred scripture that not only sets forth the transliteration of the restored, set-apart Hebrew name of our Father Yahuwah, the Son Yahusha, and the Ruach HaKodesh, but it also restores the Aleph Tav 9,837 times. It also includes books that were previously removed from scripture, such as the Book of Enoch, the Book of Jubilees, the Book of Jasher, and other books from the Apocrypha. It also gives the Aleph-Bet, the chart, the Hebrew to English chart, so that you can see it, as well as other biblical maps and charts that will help you on your spiritual walk and journey as well. And I will leave all of the helpful links below. Now, while it is on the pricey side, however, if you put in and type in the coupon code on your purchase, Truth Unveiled, so if you just type in Truth Unveiled without the 777, you will receive 10% off on your purchase. And I will leave the link below so you can see it. Hopefully this has helped you, and hopefully this will help you see that yes, the narrow path, although it can be a very lonely path, we just have to know that with Yahuwah and with his true son Yahusha, and as long as we're keeping his word and following his Torah and guarding the law, statutes, and commandments, that we will not go wrong and we will be counted worthy, because there is great reward. So this is Truth Unveiled here, saying as always, peace, love, shalom.